What is up, guys? It's very late. Hey, Brooke, how you doing? Brooke said, "LOL." Hey, Eric. I have made a commitment that to do this as much as possible. I want to stick to that. It, why am I hearing myself? Wait a minute. Do you guys hear that? Please tell me that's over. Okay. could you could you guys hear that? I think I had another browser open. So embarrassing. I gotta live with it. It happened. I can't I can't change that. What's going on, guys? So, what was I saying before I was rudely interrupted by myself? Uh, I made a commitment to do this as much as possible, and that's what I want to do. It very much relies on you. So, I gathered up a couple clips and things I might want to talk about. But really, the more I'm doing this, I see it relies on you. So, Brooke, thanks for commenting. I'd be very interested to know your guys' thoughts on a bunch of things that happened today. And of course, where did all the clips go that I just loaded? Amazing. What's that phrase? The best laid plans of mice and men. All right. While I fix that here, when I went to fix the that weird sound thing, I think I messed up the browser. Uh, so I had everything kind of like loaded here already. Perfect. You 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 gotta love it. It was literally okay. Here we go. I'm also like this close to just kind of like I, I'm like this close to just like giving up and starting again. I'm not going to do that. So somebody talk about something while I try to fix this. God, what a mess. I leave the floor to you guys here. All right, I think I fixed it. Oh boy. Okay. It was quite a day. I want to some of the things we talked about yesterday, I'm actually interested in. That was awesome. This show does need a producer. I'm interested in talking about some of the things that we talked about yesterday. First off, David Gilbert, who's a great reporter at Wired, who I've talked to a little bit only because we kind of cover some of the same things. So I think we've talked a little bit. He's got a new article up. I just want to. Hey, Brooke. Brooke said, "Good time." Yeah, like the browser was falling. I was hearing myself, but as a person who's a perfectionist, and I don't mean that in a good way. It's often it's kind of like a problem for me, though. It it's made me good at certain things, but it also is a problem. So in stuff like that, it becomes a problem because sometimes I don't. It's hard for me to like roll with the punches a little bit, which you have to do. All right, so he's got a new article, and I'm going to go ahead and just put that in, and then I'll share it too. This was actually kind of like what we were talking about yesterday, and if you guys can see that, uh, yeah. So this is exactly what we were talking about yesterday. At the Tesla counter protests, the Proud Boys and militias come to Tesla's defense. And then I'll go ahead and just put this in the chat here if people want to check it out. I apologize to Wired. This is the archive version that will get my followers around the paywall. Sorry about that, but I don't know. Information has to be shared. It is what it is. I try to subscribe as much as I can to publications. So anyway, after weeks of Tesla takedown protests, extremist groups are showing up to back Elon Musk's beleaguered car company. And this is just something that I find like particularly interesting because we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but why? Why did they show up at something like this? And I actually tweeted about it today, or posted about it, excuse me. But basically, because these people always align with fascists, they're always going to align with someone like Musk or a Trump. And there's a great bit of I think of comedy, like they're showing up at a car company. Brooks said enacting militia for personal use. Yeah, as someone who monitors these people, I'm always watching to see when they show up back on the street. Uh, for example, about 2 weeks ago, I observed a person who was arrested at the U.S. Capitol, one of the most violent offenders from here in L.A., and he was back on the street at a protest in front of a children's hospital. He was fully masked up. I think I'm the only one who actually. I'm not saying his name just because I don't know. I know it's him. I could tell by like the body type and just a few other things, but he was back on the street with the gear and all that stuff. Someone who just got a pardon. So yeah, you're always kind of like looking out for that. And these characters for a while they've been off the street. I was talking about that with a friend, another researcher, about why that is, and he was like, "Well, they won the election, right?" And that's a pretty good point. However, it's not really. I'm not sure it's how these people think necessarily, because they always want to like kind of be up to their old tricks. Uh, so you're always looking for when they start showing up, right? They showed up at drop boxes. They show up at all kinds of stuff. Like I said, this guy was at a children's hospital, and now they just move over to a car company, right? Simping on behalf of a billionaire. It's truly amazing. But that's what they're going to do. The grifters were all out there. I saw a bunch of, I don't want to promote these people too much. Let's say Josh Fulfer, one of the worst, goes by Oreo Express, one of the worst, like far right streamers out there. He was out in front of some place in Fresno. I think he's in the Wired article actually. Last time he was in a Wired article was written by the same reporter when I think he was permanently banned from YouTube because they were down by the border doing the same things. So as you can tell, all they do is shift their harassing activities. They just shift it to another place. So they're in front of a car dealer. It also shows really how, I don't know, like there's a financial aspect with people like that too, but it just shows how pathetic they are. Like, imagine all the things you could do on that day, all the things you could have done in a day you'll never get back, because none of us get any time back, right? Time moves forward. You could have done so many things, but you stood in front of a car dealership to simp on behalf of a billionaire, right? Brooke said it's like they're all waiting. Yeah, they are waiting. In a way, the radical right has a problem right now. They've got a lot of problems, but one of the problems is that because it's a culture that's based on grievance, right? And on hate. So what do you do when you won an election and you've basically taken control of every branch of government, more or less? You're no longer. So where does the grievance come from? They have to just keep looking for it. So anyway, I think the Wired article is really good. David's a great reporter, and it's always something you want to keep an eye on. I'm sorry, like the comedic aspect of this, of just, again, I know we talked about this yesterday, but showing up to simp for a billionaire, it's like mind blowing to me, and like pretty sad. I know I showed that picture yesterday of the one guy out in Texas somewhere, and I did give him credit by saying that, I do, even when I disagree with someone, I do honestly respect people who come out on their own to protest. Like I kind of like, a part of me does like that, even if I don't agree with you. But I found something like really like sad about that. So to answer your question, by the way, to the commenter, I am Jewish. I felt there were bad intentions there, so I've banned you permanently. But yes, and proud of it, proud of who I am. Brooke comes in with the perfect comment: hate begets hate. So, yeah, I've gotten pretty good at this. Like, since I started streaming, of being able to tell, you can like almost like instantly tell who's going to be a problem, and then I've gotten pretty good at banning, even without my great moderator, SPTV Tattoo Warrior. I'm pretty good on the ban thing, which I don't like to do actually. I like to let people say their piece. But man, it's like late out here. I don't know where you guys are, but it's late. So what else? Yeah, so the Tesla protests, it seems like this is going to be a thing. As long as people are out there, there's going to be counter protest. Yeah, thanks, Jane. I mean, I've been, because I cover the radical right and especially neo Nazis and people like that. I'm kind of like used to that stuff, but it's really important to me on this channel to, you guys who have been watching from the beginning know that often like there's certain like agitators who weren't necessarily like anti-Semitic, but people I banned because um I want this to be a conversation, and they were disrupting that. And that's a lot of what you see on the right is uh a something just fell. I don't know what that was, and I'm not going to look. I don't even know if that was in here. uh Brooke said, well, I don't care what you choose to believe, your content is on point and you seem like you're level-headed. Completely. I think it was a ghost actually. Oh my god, bro. Yeah, we had to put him in a timeout. So yeah, one time I had to ban this guy who, like, he's not really a bad guy, but he's just like disruptive, and he kept coming into the chat, and like you guys know how that stuff is. So if we're trying to have like a conversation, I'm trying to keep all that out. That's why I often don't like multi-stream on X, because that kind of like brings in like the wrong element a lot of the time. I think I was talking about that on yesterday's stream, how like I've never really like enjoyed the conflict that comes with this job. I got used to it. When you're reporting on something, people really, they like hate you. They like absolutely hate your guts. It doesn't have to be some extremist. It can be anybody. Jan said, I just can't do Twitter anymore. Yeah, I'm on there because I like, there's an aspect of like, they say you have to be like, you have to be there, right? Like I was, not just for my job, but it's also like this thing, like I was there first, right? And Twitter was really important in my career. It was really like a big deal, and that's how I got a lot of jobs, and that's how I got my first job at Rolling Stone. My first assignment was I sent a direct message to Noah Shackman, the editor in chief, and he said, "You should write for us." And that's, it was a huge deal, and a great guy, a really great guy, and so it's like tragic what's happened to that platform. It always had a lot of problems, but we really had something there, and it was, especially now with some of the things that are going on, Israel Palestine. It's still especially with Palestinian activists, it's a platform that's really utilized, and I need to know what's going on in the world. So anyway, not to go on about it, but that's why I'm still on there. Somebody the other day got, a few people have gotten pretty mad at me, and I'm like, it is what it is. I mean, you got to utilize the tools that are out there. But yeah, it sucks. I mean, they push this right-wing content. I mean, I'm literally seeing Jack Posobiec's tweets all day. Another right-wing guy that I've written, like, it's just like it shoves it in your face. I mean, I think I actually muted Elon because I couldn't take it anymore. But you still, I'm just thinking about some of the things that happened today. Jane said you absolutely have to at your job. So yeah, you kind of have to be on that platform. Which sucks. I mean, it's a rough It's a rough go, but still effective. And there's some people I talk to on there that they don't utilize other platforms. That's the thing. You got to kind of meet people where they are, right? If you're going to be a reporter or whatever. Brooke said this is why it's important to see receipts. So thank you for dealing with it. Right. So I don't know if you guys follow some of my other reporting, but like, so I've been reporting on this Tony D'Amato trial, is these ongoing proceedings where he's a live streamer who's been charged with multiple counts of electronic harassment. Of course, like anyone in our system, he's innocent until proven guilty. It's always important to put that out there. But so I've been covering that. And if you guys saw that, at one time I reached out for him to comment, and he did a whole thing that he said I never did that. So then I posted the receipt, right? It's kind of like what happened with on a different level, but with Jeffrey Goldberg, right? They called him a liar, so then he posted the chat, right? So, and you guys know I always bring the receipts, always. Like, who are we talking about here? Yeah, I always bring the receipts, of course. So yeah, of course I posted the direct message. Like, come on, man. The whole point of why you reached out to people for a comment, it's not just like you're not just going through emotion. It's because you honestly you want to have as much information as possible. That's the point. That's like Jane said he wasn't going to. I mean, I am always I'm a pretty fair guy. I always reach out. It's very important. So yeah. So you guys know I bring the receipts. All right, what else do we got here? Tell me what you guys did today while I see what else is on my list here. It's been a crazy time. I was gonna. Brooks said two sides of every coin. Better to be informed. I was kind of going to do this at the end, but maybe I'll just play it now. Is this rock bottom? What I'm about to play? Like when they talk about hitting rock bottom, you kind of like you kind of like wonder. Let me go ahead and play this. I feel like this is like semi like rock bottom here. %. All right, so this is, of course, I got to pull it up again. When I had my little technical difficulty there, I think I lost the window. No worries. This video is all over the internet today. This shouldn't be too hard to find. Yep, there it is. All right, 1 second. Jane said playing with a M4 Mac Air. Nice. Brooke said packing a move. Cool. Those both sound like important things to do. More important. I actually did a lot today. I got a lot done. And in the back of my head, I was like, I am going to do this if I'm going to be consistent. Because I see these guys, like the people I follow, like, I don't know, take your pick, like in Hassan Piker and Aaron Smith Levin, people who stream a lot, and they stream all the time. So I'm aware that that's important. All right. Let me go ahead and share this. Present. Here we go. So Kid Rock was, people are already like, I saw this. Kid Rock was at the White House. So he doesn't have to wear a suit, right? That's the whole thing. They try to destroy a genuine hero, Zelensky, because of the way he dresses, and then this moron comes out like this. It's pathetic. All right, let's go ahead and watch some of this.
Speed. I know you put. I want to make sure.
Sorry, the audio is like super low. It's the clip itself. Let me turn that up a little.
Alina Habba gets her credit too, because I know she worked very hard on this, but thank you for making this happen so quick. Anyone who's bought a concert ticket in the last decade, maybe 20 years.
I really don't want to listen to too much of what this moron has to say, but like, I've got like, look, first of all, look at this guy. So what he was doing was they were talking about some, you know what? I didn't even dig too much into this. It was something about, concert tickets. I'll play a little bit more, which has long been, to be fair, has long been a problem. I'm just saying I don't really expect those two individuals to probably be solving this problem.
No matter what your politics are, knows it is a conundrum. You buy a ticket for $100. By the time you check out, it's 170. You don't know what you can charge for it. But more importantly, these bots, they come in to get all the good tickets.
This is rock. Let me stop sharing. This is rock bottom. I mean, that is absolute rock bottom. I'm talking about as a country. That is rock bottom. We went to the moon. No, we went to the moon, and look at that. Like, I don't like to be negative, but that is almost rock bottom right there. Zippy said, when do election results happen? Well, depends on what election. We are going to talk about the big Wisconsin election. I'm pretty sure at least one person in this chat said they were in Wisconsin. So I'd be really interested to know if you voted and, kind of what your experience was. The election is tomorrow, right? So I would assume we would know the results sometime tomorrow. I worked on a team at a previous job. The Wisconsin, yeah, I think it's tomorrow, right? So at my last job, it was interesting. So I worked on a team during it was the 2022 midterms. And you're welcome. It's a good question. And so I worked on election protection. And so at this think tank I worked at, we all worked on teams for different states. And this was a lot of fun. I worked on a team. Because we were assigned to Wisconsin. So it was just me and this other guy, a great guy named Kieran, a great analyst who lives in Ireland. So Kieran and I every day would be monitoring what was going on in Wisconsin. And it was, first of all, it's hilarious that a guy who lives in Ireland, he lives in kind of like a small like village, who, he was working on this with me, and we just had so much fun. A lot of it we spent monitoring this guy named Harry Waite, who is a known a bad actor, a conspiracy theorist. But basically our job was to try to keep ahead of threats to the election. And so it was a little different than monitoring states like Arizona, where you had armed people showing up. The Wisconsin was just a lot of fun. And I have a lot of fond memories when Kieran and I would work together to try to, stay ahead of anything that happened. And that election actually went okay, as you guys recall. So anyway, I was proud to play a little bit of a part in that. But God, this Harry Waite guy, I'm telling you, he runs this organization called Hot Wisconsin, which I'm blanking on what it stands for. And the one more thing I'll say about him is, so this guy attempted to prove some conspiracy theory involving election fraud, and he ended up getting indicted. Like he attempted to impersonate another voter or something like that, and then he got indicted, which was the amount of time that we spent laughing over that. I can't even put it into words. So I would say, I know a lot of elections in this country take a long time, but for something like that, a Supreme Court election, we should know the results by, I would think we should know them the same day. This is a crazy election. I mean, so Elon spent what, 23 million or something? Did you guys see? Because he's always pushing these anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about George Soros, and then they went ahead and calculated how much he spent compared to Soros, who does also contribute to some elections. Soros put in, I think, 2 million, and Elon put in 23. So I'll leave that to you to kind of assess that. I think you can figure it out. But all that stuff is just straight anti-Semitism. It's pretty gross, honestly. Zippy said Elon posts Keck. Yeah. Now Elon's fully, is like a 50. How old is he? 51. So he's like full on, obviously he's like full on Nazi now. He posts, did 2 Nazi salutes, right? So he's full on into that stuff. And it's super gross. 53, Jane said. Brooke said old enough to know better. Yeah. It's like so sad. Someone who's benefited so much from this country, but that's how a lot of Republicans are. You've benefited so much from this country, but him in a different way because he immigrated here, and then that's how he treats America. Zippy said that's some straight up 4chan incel rhetoric. Yeah. I spent a lot of time on those forums, unfortunately, and yeah, and now it's in the White House. All that stuff. Every day they have a new story about exposing one of these Doge guys as being a neo-Nazi, or it's just pathetic. And then they fire them, and then they quietly resurface somewhere else. It's real evil. It's real evil stuff. Jane said, "What are thoughts on all the celebrities running to live in other countries?" Jane, I have to be honest. I haven't seen too many news stories about that, but it's possible. Maybe I just been a little preoccupied. If you have any specific names, I would definitely like to talk about that. I'm just trying to think of anybody I heard of that was like moving. Wait, Rosie O'Donnell moved to Ireland? What? I didn't hear about that at all. I heard of a bunch of professors that moved to Canada, right? Which by the way, I completely like understand that. There's a couple. Was it Timothy Snyder? It's like some really distinguished professors. Uh, Look, I get it. This is scary. Jane said Richard to Spain. And Brenda said something fundamental has changed in this country. Yeah. Look, I was doing some calculations today. I was just I'm an American citizen, obviously, but I I have a certain job and a certain beliefs where I I have to be careful, especially with people like this. So I was making some security calculations today just for myself. Not a big deal, nothing crazy, but we got to be careful. Zippy said the Yale professor Timothy Snyder, right? You know, right now they're shipping. Actually, this is kind of a good segue because I pulled this up. While I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'm going to go ahead and first of all, let me go ahead and put this in the chat, and then highly recommend this. Chris Mathias, who's a great reporter. I've met Chris once. Great guy. I don't know if you guys know him. He reports on the radical right. He used to be at HuffPost. I think now he's doing his own thing because HuffPost had a lot of layoffs, unfortunately. So let me go ahead and just briefly share this. And I highly recommend reading Chris's piece. Hang on a second. Headline kind of says it all, right? But check it out. Don't think it can't happen here. Throwback to Sinclair Lewis, right? It's already happening here. And then Chris kind of goes on to demonizing rhetoric from the White House, arrests without due process, deporting immigrants to a brutal prison in a foreign country. This is America today. Unfortunately, Chris is spot on in this. You guys can read it yourself, but I just want to highlight one thing at the end, which I think is worth highlighting. Oh, it's not down with all these weird ads. Apologies. This is kind of, sort of quick warning here. This is some disturbing content. When Breivik, the Norwegian neo-Nazi who went on an anti-immigrant killing spree in 2011, posted his murderous manifesto, it included a quotation often attributed to Napoleon that imagined an all-powerful leader free to do what he pleased. Last month, Trump posted the same quote on X. He who saves his country violates no law. Also, just the way Chris put that together, I think was really effective. Brenda said, "I don't see how we can survive 4 years of Trump." I don't either. I can't believe we survived the last one. We barely did. Joe Biden said democracy has prevailed, right? Remember that? And I remember thinking, but for how long, right? Jane said Trump admitted they sent an innocent person to El Salvador from Maryland. I was literally just reading that walking down the street. Yeah, they kidnapped these people, just send them wherever. Jane said it will never stop me from speaking out. Exactly. And it never should. Brenda said, I'm 67. I know a Trump or Elon couldn't have gained power in the 60s, 70s. I don't think so either. The radical, this danger, I mean, there was always this undercurrent, but this really started sometime in the 70s and the 80s when the radical right and the Republican Party started to merge in this like dark alliance. I got that phrase from a Gary Webb book, a really good book that they made a movie out of his life, with Jeremy Renner. But he was a reporter up at I think the San Jose, it's a paper up there. And he broke a major story about drug trafficking and the CIA. But anyway, that's what happened. Once the Republican Party made that dark alliance with the religious right, that's kind of how we got here. Never an Aaron, how you doing? Never Aaron said, I found 1984, the full movie posted on YouTube. If you want to laugh, each political leaning says it represents the other. Yeah, that's one of I've talked about this before, like the radical right, like just destroying like the Matrix and all this cool stuff. Like it just is like it just like melts your brain. Like all this cool stuff, and it's like, do you get who the bad guy is? Like you obviously don't, right? You obviously don't. And then Jane said they can't bring him back, referring to that's I think what they were saying, right? I can't bring this guy. Like, what are you, insane? You kidnapped him. Appreciate you guys being so vocal. It's helpful to me because this is fundamentally an interactive medium. While I do prepare some stuff, I'm learning too how to do this. One of the things I'm interested in is uh, can a channel that's not fully devoted to conflict, which is what attracts eyes, can it become successful? I guess we're going to find out. Not that I don't, I'll go out and cover protests and things that get a lot of eyes, and I'm sure we're going to have interviews. We've had a few already where I don't want to say sparks flew, but there's definitely like normal civil debate that's happened, and that's great. But the question is, can a channel that's not devoted to a lot of conflict really, really take off? Brooke said that's what scares me, watching my rights slip away, no matter how loud I say no. Yeah, Brooke. Well, with these people, and Jane said yes. Do I think Vance would be better or worse? Brenda asks. That's a good question. Trump is, I don't mean this as a compliment, right? But he's a unique historical figure, right? In terms of what he's been able to, bring this fascism to the forefront. And he's really unique in that respect. Remember in the election in 2016 when all those other candidates, once they started to realize, like Jeb Bush, that they had a major problem, that this other figure, again, I'm not saying this as a compliment, it's just a transformative figure, right? In history for all the wrong reasons. They remember how they tried to be him like Marco Rubio, and it was a total disaster. They couldn't be him because they weren't him. So would Vance be better or worse? I'm not sure, honestly. I'm gonna have to think about it a little bit. It's a good question, though. A very good question. Zippy said we do need it. By the way, if you guys aren't already subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Please, you can subscribe to my Substack and other stuff. If you want to support the channel, we launch memberships, so you can support us for the low price of $3 a month. But most importantly is that you watch and participate. You know, it's better than hearing me talk to myself. Zippy said we do need to understand that the fight against authoritarianism, oligarchy, and fascism extends beyond U.S. borders. 100%. I think about my entry into kind of reporting, which was with my friend Scott Stedman, and basically we launched together. It was Scott's baby, but it was an independent outlet called Forensic News, and it's kind of on hiatus now. But I think you can still find some of the articles, and we did a lot of cross-border reporting and stuff, and it was a lot of fun, like financial crime and money laundering, and but that just made me think of that, some of the work we did and the people we would talk to. And I never imagined I would talk to, some of these stories. I talked to people in Russia and other places, and I would think, I think, wow, this person is really brave. Like we would do our best to protect them, but I would think, wow, this person's really brave. Like they are, they're right there, and then I wonder now, it's like, I don't know, like, is that us now? Or will it be us, I guess? Brooks said, what if he does the third term crap? Yeah, they're 100% floating that, obviously, aren't they? They obviously don't care if it's legal or not, right? Like, it's not legal to get rid of birthright citizenship. It's unconstitutional, but these people don't care. Brooks said, can we ask Obama to run again? I wish, yeah. We never knew how, we never knew. I personally I didn't like everything President Obama did, but I really liked him a lot, obviously. And he's a great man, a respectable man, and a great writer. One of the underspoken about, for lack of a better phrase, aspects is that he was one of our only writer presidents, like an actual writer, a brilliant writer. I would like to see more of President Obama now. He's been a little quieter. I guess that's just what I'm going to say. We need leadership. Zippy said it's unique in my lifetime that these evils are as prominent here as they are. Yeah, it is evil. Jane said, if Trump runs for 3, so could Obama. Right, yeah. Yeah, a lot of really good, like, insightful comments here. Jane said, have to run. Thanks, Eric, and everyone. Share Eric run. Thanks, Jane. Appreciate it. Thanks for jumping in. This is exactly why I try to ban people like that guy earlier, because I don't want this disrupted. Like, I like civil debates, great, and I recognize as a channel grows that I won't be able to always do this. I get that. Some of those streams I do when I'm out, you see me walking to Hollywood, you get all kinds of crazy comments, but a lot of really, really insightful comments here. Brenda said, I can't believe how evil Marco Rubio has turned out to be. I thought he might bring some reason to the administration. Yeah, it's really sad, actually. Not that I was a huge fan of his, but a lot of people did think, many years ago, they really thought he showed, promise. I guess not. Brooks said we're the practice group before you hit the big time. Yeah. I've done some fun interviews on Status Quo and some more well-known stuff. It would have been cool to go on TYT, but the Young Turks. I don't know what's going on there now. I mentioned this yesterday, but I was watching. I think it's Francesca Fiorentini. She was a commentator. She's now like doing her own thing because they had a TYT was doing some right wing stuff now. I don't know what's going on there. Specifically, like Cenk was like on stage with Charlie Kirk. It was like, all right. Zippy said I was a USA civil servant for 25 years and I can really see the lies of the current admin. Yeah. Brenda said, I think people need to take to the streets, but I fear Trump will hurt people. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people, and they are taking to the streets, which is great, but you're right. I mean, yeah, of course, they're snatching people and putting them in vans. And the point of that Chris Mathias piece was like that eventually they come for all of us, right? Which I think we talked about yesterday a little bit. But I like doing this, it's good to talk about it. It's a human it's a human thing to want to talk about it. I don't think we are necessarily interested. I literally starred that ridiculous comment. How do we get rid of it? That's my question. We don't want to advertise. Very weird. Okay. Zippy said it's atrocious. It is pretty atrocious. And Zippy said, I'm taking to the streets, but I'm in a blue state. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm in a blue state too. The most important thing, I've said this on other shows, there's more of us than there are of them. There's more. Most Americans do not support fascism. They don't. A disturbing amount do, let's be honest, but many don't. And they're not, they don't like this. They're not down with this. Brooks said I'm in a red, lots and lots of red. Yeah. They are not down with this. Most people don't like this stuff. But there's a certain thing that happens in history, these special moments like 2020, right? Remember how everybody hit the street? I bet every person in this chat, with the exception of the person who's trying to sell some weird scam on some website that I can't get rid of, everybody hit the street, right? I know every person subscribed to this channel probably hit the street and was at some protest or whatever. And that was something special. Like, I'll drive around LA sometimes, or I'll just be in. I was down by the Grove recently, which is a big shopping center, and I was like remembering in my head these moments that happened there, and some photographs I have. And it was May 30th, 2020, when I ran to the Grove because I was out there. I was just kind of like learning a little bit about how you cover a protest, and then the police started shooting rubber bullets. I wasn't prepared for that. So I take off. By the way, everybody took off. I end up, just to be clear, I end up at the Grove, which is this like Disney type looking shopping complex. It was so surreal, and there was no one there. I'm just standing there alone. It felt like it was like some Christopher Nolan movie. Brooks said, I've been reaching out to whom I can, but I have found it hard, to be honest, and they have so much hate. Yeah, I mean, all you can do is be available, right? I've learned that with, working on issues of radicalization. All you can do is basically they kind of have to take the first step. All you can do is be there when they do, right? It's tough. It's very hard to de-radicalize people. Zippy said, I think the best hope is that enough folks who voted for FDT catch on to what's happening. Yeah, on that tip, because I see that Brenda made a comment about losing Social Security. I feel like which is it's unbelievable. That was like the, what do they call it? Like the third rail of American politics. Even the most radical. Remember when Bush, uh, George W. Remember they tried to float that, and it was such a disaster that they never. I don't think they ever brought it up again. It was like right when his presidency started. They brought that up. It was a total disaster, and you never heard about it. But these guys, shoot, literally the most successful American program, probably of all time. Thank you, FDR, and the brilliant people who came up with that. And then Brenda said, my nephew and his mother just got their citizenship. So I'm glad to hear that. I worry too. I got friends. Shoot. I mean, and Brooke also talked about, I'm on SSDI. These programs are important. I mean, all of us benefit from government programs. It one of the things I keep coming back to is, I've talked about this before. What is the explanation for this behavior? Because there's only one explanation. I know what I'm going to say what the answer is. I know what the answer is. I think I know what the answer is. But for example, with Social Security, why would someone want to destroy that and bring out? That's going to bring out the ire if they try to do that, which they are kind of trying. That's going to bring out the ire of everybody. That's going to lead to massive Democratic wins. I can almost assure you. So, but why would you do these things? The simple answer is they want to destroy the United States of America. They want to destroy the United States. They're accelerationists, basically. If you guys have heard that word, it's a word that's usually applied to neo-Nazis, but which some of these people are too. But that's what this is. They want to destroy the country, and then they believe that when it's gone, that they can, really have power and build it up in whatever image they want. That's what this is. I think that's a fair assessment. Because why would you do these deeply unpopular things unless your ultimate goal wasn't to destroy this country? I'm learning how cogent I can be after a full day of work and doing other stuff. I'm like I can feel myself like slipping a little, but I'm still like pretty cogent. Brooke said, I figure while my family serves and served this country. Exactly. Yeah, many of us, all of us, right? Everybody has a relative who served this country, and grandparents or great grandparents who served in World War II, and and saved the world a lot of the time, right? Brenda said they want to replace democracy by tech guys and oligarchs. Yep. Brooke said I married the army. Does that your spouse was in the army, I assume? But I also like this comment. Brooke said I fight for those that can't. Exactly. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point. To fight for those who don't have the same voice. And we do still have a voice in this country. Let's use it, Let's use it, because there's a lot of places in the world where you do a stream like this, before the stream's over, there's some guy in a mask knocking at your door. That's why we all got to come together, and we can. Yesterday I played the video of the Kat Abou-Ghazaleh, the candidate who's running in Illinois. I almost feel like we should play that again, because just somebody who really gets it, and I'm sure, by the way, that Kat is going to win. Let's see if I can find. She was dropping a new video today. Maybe we could just play some. Let's play the original video. Hang on. I'm going to present. because Kat is an expert in the radical right. I feel like if you saw yesterday's stream, you saw that like I don't know her personally, but I know people that worked at Media Matters and uh, kind of like some mutual contacts, and I just knowing some of those people, they understand kind of what we're up against. I think in a way that other candidates don't. So let me just go ahead and play a little bit of this.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk are dismantling our country piece by piece. And so many Democrats seem content to just sit back and let them. So I say it's time to drop the excuses and grow a fucking spine. I'm Kat Abou-Ghazaleh, and I'm running for Congress in Illinois' 9th District. Unfortunately, this party has become one where you have to look to the exceptions for real leadership, as the majority work from an outdated playbook. We need a makeover, which means we need a vision that's bigger than what we've been told is possible. There is absolutely no reason you shouldn't be able to afford housing, groceries.
So yeah, I think just a great video and someone who understands the let me remove this. Someone who understands what we're up against. So I really hope we can like get her on here for an interview. And Brenda said it's not just Trump, it's all those guys behind him. Yeah. I've used this phrase before. He's a front man, right? Like he's been a front man ever since the day when a couple of those like Russian mob guys, like the ones that Craig Unger wrote about, when they bought a couple condos in one of his buildings. That's when he became a front man, and that's what he does. He made a living for the most part selling a name. Now, it was a name that was built on something that wasn't real, but that's what he does. He was a front man then, and he's a front man now. The people behind like Project 2012 is a perfect example. There's people like policy wonks who understand, unfortunately, they're evil, but they do understand more the mechanics of government. And then he's the front man. He's the guy out there doing whatever the hell with Kid Rock while they're, but they, like I said, it's a dark alliance. They need each other. Neither of them exist without each other. I think Trump is embarrassed by a lot of his own supporters. I don't think that's a secret, but he needs them. And they need him. They need him to enact, the things that they want. And then Brenda correctly said they love Israel, but believe most Jews will go to hell. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most, like, as I investigate this attack that occurred on the pro-Palestine encampment that I've talked about a lot last year at UCLA. By the way, we're coming up on the anniversary of that, which is crazy. You guys probably remember if you saw Film the Police LA stream, he's the one who really captured that was used in like the New York Times article to really show what happened. But it's really disturbing to see the radical right and even like that night at UCLA, there were pro-Israel counter protesters who were chanting anti-Semitic stuff. These are Jewish people chanting anti-Semitic stuff about George Soros. It makes your head kind of melt, actually, to see them support. Like how Donald Trump is one of the most anti-Semitic presidents we've ever had. To support that is just so disgusting. It's so gross. I just heard something. My phone went off. Maybe it's somebody calling to say what a great stream this is. Sound like it's nothing. I hit my exercise goal for the day. How did I hit my goal just sitting here, by the way, right now? How is that possible? Never and Aaron said, remember when 23andMe went bankrupt and they had to sell? Yeah, if you guys are on the site, you still have time. Delete your stuff. Get it off that site. There's still a period where, they're bankrupt, but you can still get rid of it. And then you went on to say, if SpaceX goes bankrupt, do the astronauts get stranded in space? Knowing Elon, he's missing something on the human level. So, right. As Zippy said, in Zippy said, actually, Brendan, my Christian fundamentalist upbringing, Jews are the chosen, right? Because feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how I remember it. For the Messiah to return, for Jesus to return, all the Jews have to be back in Israel. So they rely on, but it's a transactional thing. They don't, it's not like it's from some like honest place, more or less. So, and I would assume that we end up burning in hell because we don't, believe in Jesus. Like, so. Trump is very pro Netanyahu. Yeah. Well, they're like very similar, right? They're both corrupt criminals. So there's a lot of great people in Israel too. It's like I never judge, like I try to separate a government and the people, right? There's people I'm saying personally, I talk to people all the time, researchers, investigators, people who are over there, and they're putting I hate to use the phrase on both sides, but that's true. Not just Palestinian people, Jewish people who are putting their life on the line to protect humanity, to what they believe in. They don't like this war that's still going. It's a long conversation, about October 7th, and Israel had every right to respond to that. I always want to be clear about that. You have every right to respond, but look at where we are now. Someone kills thousands of your own people, you can respond militarily, but look at where we are now. That's just what I'm saying. It doesn't seem that complicated to me, but this topic has become so like, I don't know. Brooke said CNN is calling. Yeah, can I replace Scott? Who was that? Scott Jennings? Really, insightful comments. Appreciate you guys participating like this. Man, I'm fried. I've been watching a lot of old episodes of like NYPD Blue. That's like what that's become my new, like during the work week anyway, when I'm not like going to go out or something. I just kind of like zone out. It's very important to zone out because your brain is always working, but you have to you need to like give it some time just to relax. Appreciate it, Zippy. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Yeah, everybody, please subscribe to the channel. Check out the Substack. Trying to think what else I had on the agenda here. Totally exhausted. Chris Mathias. Pretty much ran through everything. Nothing much more. It's really important to take mental breaks. I am trying to come up with a good schedule. In terms of a daily stream, the mid-morning is best for me, but I figure, Zippy said, appreciate your efforts to provide police court documents online. Yeah. I always bring the receipts. I see what the way I learned that, by the way, was the work I did with Zippy. Thanks a lot for that. Thanks a lot for the super chat. Really nice of you. You didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it. All the money, by the way, goes back into the channel. Literally, all the money goes back into the channel. Till we all get rich, and then we can I don't know, go on a trip or something. That actually would be kind of fun. I wonder if any streamers or have like a cruise or something. Now I'm just like rambling, but that'd be like kind of cool, like meet everybody in person. Appreciate that very much. It all goes back into the channel, and like I've talked about, the more we have, the more we can do. I was stoked when this channel got monetized. I was like, because I just, if I can do this kind of thing and really like bring people, I don't know, whatever, a couple laughs. There's a helicopter. If you live in LA, you probably know, or if you don't live in LA, you may have noticed that, or if you follow Film the Police LA, there's a lot of helicopters here. There's always a police helicopter. And it creates this undercurrent, like an unsettling feeling. It's always kind of with you. And it's an interesting thing when you live in this city. Oh, right. I was trying to say about the receipts about the court case. Brooks said Good is chasing. Oh, is he live right now? Or is he chasing? Yeah, what I was going to say before, what I meant to say, sorry, was that the first reporting I did with my friend Scott, I learned from Scott because Scott, the website he created was called Forensic News because he wanted to show. The reason he chose the word forensic was people would always ask us if it was about like dead bodies, but what it was about was showing the evidence. He would always show the documents, and I learned that from him. A really good reporter, and that's why when you go to my Substack, that influenced me. That's why I published the documents so you could see it, right? Like when I dropped those on that particular case you're talking about, right, with Tony Diamano, when I published was it like 26 counts or something? I put all the documents up there, right? So you could read it yourself. And you can determine for yourself, right? But that's like, that's one of my complaints that you see with, I hate to use the phrase mainstream media, but you do, I don't like it when they don't link or like the story with the text messages that bugged me a little recently because they did end up showing them. But, if you have it, show it. Now you can't always show it, right? You have to be careful, right? Court documents, you can show. Other stuff, you got to be careful. If you're working with a whistleblower, you got to be incredibly careful, right? Reality Winner went to prison because I still don't understand how a publication like The Intercept, which has had a lot of great people working there, how they were able, the mistakes they made were really like almost unforgivable. And if you guys remember that case, as I recall, they got, regardless of what you think about the big picture on that story, or if you agree or disagree, I've got friends who work in the national security space and they get angry about that. Other people disagree. But the point I'm trying to make is when they tried to authenticate those documents from Reality Winner, as I recall, they actually sent the documents to the NSA who were able to trace it, right? It was like, that's a mistake even a rookie reporter probably wouldn't make. So that was crazy. By the way, some of the way they got that, where they traced it, was that I don't know if you guys know this, you might know it, many printers, I think it's laser printers, print a series of invisible dots that can be tracked. You guys probably know that. This is a pretty educated chat, but if you didn't, something to keep in mind. You can just Google laser printer tracking. So I think it's laser printer. I always get anyway, something to keep in mind. And it's the NSA, you know what I mean? Like they know how to track things. They can see who printed what, when, all that stuff, right? So that was an unforgivable error. I mean, somebody went to jail. And then Brenda said, William Good is a heroic figure to me, kind of like Batman. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you guys saw the interview I did with William, and I'm not going to go over that too much, but I talked, I think, a little bit about the night we met, which I always remember. Very like fond memories of that. That night, it was a party, and I met a bunch of really like-minded people. I knew everybody, right? We all knew each other, but most of us had never met each other. And it was, especially when times get tough, which is now we're in tough times. I always kind of sometimes think about that night, and I was sitting next to William. I think I told the story. He was quiet. you know, which is how he is, honestly. You know, there's, you know, believe it or not, I'm even quiet off. I know it doesn't seem like it, but we were just quietly talking. And anyway, you guys know how much I admire him and love the guy. He's just incredible, a person who's made a difference and makes a difference. And I'm proud to know him. Proud to know him. And he is like Batman. And Brooks said, I want to receive this receipts and let me examine. Yeah, exactly. The reporter might help, you know, explain or interpret, but I always like to publish the receipts. And the other reason too is people just enjoy that. They like seeing the court records. They really enjoy that. Brooks said, I work for Xerox, Fortune 500. And then Zippy said, right. So you guys know about the logs and all that stuff. Reporters are always real careful about that, or except for the incident we just talked about. I'm like super careful. You know, I'm like upset. You got to be obsessive about that stuff if you're gonna, because these people can go to prison, right? It's really not about the reporter. I mean, for whatever risks we might face here and there, you know, we're protected. We talked about that, right? We're protected, like from the Pentagon Papers, about publishing things, even if the documents themselves were stolen or whatever. We're protected, but those people, they can go to prison for a long time. I remember we published some other documents. I don't know if I can tell that one, but they were also leaked from a high level source about like money laundering. And that, anyway, that person was very courageous. Brenda said I was a fan of Elon until this fiasco. I didn't realize he was a bad guy. A lot of, I wasn't everybody like in the beginning of Elon. Like I forget when, maybe like way like just when he bought Tesla. I mean, everybody was like, "Wow, you know, what a cool guy." The guy's literally torpedoed himself. Zippy said, "I'm a Streets LA fan." Yeah, love him. I mean, who doesn't? You got to be. It's like with some of these people, like the few people who don't. I'm like, so what? I'm like I understand if like a cop or something is mad. And by the way, a lot of the cops, you guys know this already. So a lot of them, they might not all agree with him, but many respect him. That I know they respect him because I've seen it, and you guys have seen it too. The people who just don't like him or don't respect him, it just kind of like blows my mind. Like, so what is it exactly? Brenda said you're protected until you're not. Yep, I think about it all the time when I talk to my other friends. You know, but we got to do what we got to do, right? I mean, that's the way I've always felt about it. Like, I really only got into this kind. I mean, I did a lot of stuff. I did a lot of different stuff in my career. You can see the guitar, and I've played music and acted, but I don't know. When I got into this, just because I was a little bit older than people getting started in terms of like I wasn't like 21 in journalism school. I was a little bit older, and I was a news consumer, and I kind of like understood what the risks were, and within I I guess it's not a bad thing or a good thing, but within a year of reporting professionally, I had already experienced almost every bad thing that can happen. Uh, any kind of harassment or physical attack, like all that stuff happened. I was like, I guess I'm not bad at this. maybe it just happened like really quick. I was like, so all right, I guess I don't know what my point was there, but the point is that I do protect myself. Thank you. I try to. Brooke asked about Pam Bonnie, and to be honest with you, to your question, I don't know the answer to that. I think it's a good question. Never Aaron said, would there have been consequences if Goldberg leaked what was revealed to him in the group chat? Yeah, great question as well. I did a video about that. I forget if you guys were in it or if you saw it. I was so the answer. I was very like upset. I don't know if the right word. I was upset at that first article because I felt he was really showing deference to the national security system. Ken Klippenstein wrote about that too. When they called him a liar, then he ended up releasing all of it. This is great. The short answer is that no, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't try to do something. Like legally, like he was in. That's why everyone was joking about like, dude, you just got handed the mother load. They accidentally put you in a chat. He did nothing. Legally, he's on solid ground. But the thing is, to your point, Never and Aaron, they don't care, right? They'll throw an indictment. By the way, they're not the only. Obama was aggressively pursuing journalists too. It was one of the things I was disappointed about. While there were many things I liked about him, you know, the national security apparatus doesn't really care sometimes, and you never know. I'm sure Goldberg thought about it. And then there's not just the legal thing. He might be worried. Well, what if I put somebody in harm's way? Now I didn't see that happening, but I'm sure he was thinking about that stuff. But no, a normal political administration could not throw an indictment at Goldberg or anything. But these people, I mean, they don't care what's legal. I'm sure Goldberg was thinking about that. I mean, Goldberg was just in like I said, it's like the winning lotto ticket. You were accidentally put. Like if it was me, that's what I was saying. Like you could have lurked there. You could have lurked there for a long time, gathering info and publishing stories. You could write it in a way where it's tricky, but you could have also these people are idiots, right? You could have pulled that off for a while, but then he just went about it in a certain way, I guess. Brenda said Pam Bondi was in cahoots with Scientology in Florida. Aaron, of growing up in Scientology, see, I need to educate myself on that. To be honest with you, I'm not as knowledgeable, but Aaron certainly is about that stuff. So I'll check it out. Brenda said, I keep thinking we need all hands on deck, but where are they? Where's Obama? Yeah. One thing I learned, maybe I'll close out on this because I completely agree with you, Brenda. We got to save ourselves, right? Like that's the thing that's like the first thing you like. That's almost like if you become an activist or whatever, that's like something, there's like this internal process that many activists realize. Like I remember John Lewis, rest in peace, right? One of the most moving pieces is the New York Times op-ed, which he's, had published after he passed away. But I remember reading about John Lewis, and I think he talked about like when he knew he had to get involved, but that first protest where, they're getting hurt, they're getting beaten by police, and he never experienced anything like that. But that's where he came up with Good Trouble, when he just realized it's like this internal thing where like, no, this is what I do now, and I'm going to do this, and I'm accepting the consequences. But all of us are going through that. I think that internal process a little bit, and it's not a bad thing. That's what the birth of an activist is, I think. Don't you think? Like, I guess the point I'm trying to make is like, I don't know if anyone's going to save us. We're going to have to save us. And like I said, there's more of us than there are of them. That to me is the key thing. People are not down with this stuff. Most of them. Yeah, I miss John Lewis. Never got to meet him. I wish I would have. But at the end of that op-ed, remember what he said? He said something to the effect of, "You have the watch now. My time." It's a really moving piece. He said, "My time is at an end, but now, now it's your turn, right? Now it's your time." We the people, exactly. Never Aaron said, can any of the service members who are involved ever reveal themselves? I apologize. I'm not in which way? Or if you mean with the Goldberg thing? Anyway, I think I'm going to close it out here. It's been a Zippy said we shall overcome. Exactly. It's been a great discussion. Really enjoying this. Thank you guys very much. Like, comment, subscribe. Zippy, thanks again for that super chat. It was super nice of you guys. Super nice of you and everybody. Just thank you. I say we pick this up again tomorrow. And otherwise, have a great night. We can strategize more on how to save this country. All right, take care, y'all.